Welcome back to World of Woodshop. In this video I'm going to show how I made this marionette. It was a really cool project. It's also something that I did over the summer with a bunch of kids at camp. It was definitely a challenging project, but a fun one. So I'm starting with my body, and for this I'm using 1x8 pine that I've cut into lengths that are 6.5 inches. I have two pieces because I'm going to layer them to make the body thicker. I'm doing this because I'm going to end up drilling holes towards the bottom for legs to stick into. I'm going to put a dowel, and also towards the top shoulder area where another dowel will go in for arms, and I want it thicker so that way it's easier to drill the hole so that it's not so thin when I drill and it breaks the wood. So having it thicker is better. So I am stacking those, gluing, and then nailing them together. I also have drawn on there a template. I'm tapering the body down so it's wide at the top where the shoulders will be, and then it tapers down to where the waist would be, where the legs are going to connect. And where I have that shaded in pencil, I'm also going to notch those out because that is where legs will go up into there, and then I'll have dowels coming in from the sides. Part of the challenges when I was doing this with kids at camp was they were having a hard time notching these pieces out, so I had a lot of things that were breaking and I had to go back in and kind of repair, add blocks of wood back on. So that was a bit of a challenge for the kids, but they did do it and they learned a pretty neat technique. Now that the body is set, we're going to start working on our limbs. So specifically I'm starting with our legs. So the legs, well, and the arms as well, they're made using 1x2 pine. And so the legs will consist of an upper leg, which is going to be 7 inches with a hole drilled in the top that will join into those notches on the body. And then the bottom part of the leg is also going to be 7 inches. And then what I have is two 4-inch pieces of the 1x2 pine that will be cap ends on either side of the legs to join them together. So I'll have a 4-inch piece on one side with the hole through it. Dowel goes through the hole in it, dowel goes through the hole in the leg, and then dowel comes out the other side and it's capped with the other 4-inch piece. And so I have those caps on both sides. Essentially that's like the knee. And I'll do this twice and then I'll have my legs. The process to make the arms is very similar to the legs. The only thing that is different is going to be the dimensions. So the arm is going to be made up of two pieces. The first piece, the upper arm, is 7 inches long, so that's the longer piece coming off the shoulder. And then the bottom part of the arm is going to be 3.5 inches. The two pieces that I'm using to join or cap those together are also 3.5 inches long. There is no slot and tab to secure the arms to the body like I had for the legs. So to secure the arms, what I'm doing is putting the dowel through, and then I have a 1.5 by 1.5 inch square that I'm putting on top of that dowel and gluing that into place. And with that complete, we have the arms secured and the legs are also in, as you see. So the next thing that we're going to start working on is the head. I'm drilling a hole through the top down center of that body, and then I'm going to cut my head pieces. This head will be 1x6 pine, so just like how the body was double layered, the head is also double layered to make it thicker. I'm cutting two pieces that are 4.5 inches long, and then I am gluing them together. Once they are glued together, I'll drill a hole through the top going down, and then a dowel will be used for the neck. So the dowel will go into the body, and then the head will go onto the other side of that dowel, and then we will have the marionette complete, or at least the doll portion of it, and then after that the next thing to create is the controls for it and to string it up. Creating the controller can be a bit tricky. It really all depends on how complicated you want your dummy to be. I'm using a very simple controller here that you just hold in one hand. It's a cross controller, two pieces of wood that are 7 inches long, nailed together at the centers, and then you screw in some hooks. I put one on each end, so there's 4 there, and then one directly in the center. You also need hooks in your dummy, obviously, so I'm putting one in the center of the head and one on each limb, so I got one in each hand and then one in each knee. The final hook I'm going to put is on the back of the dummy, the back bottom of the torso in the center, and that one would be used to make them like bend over or bow. And when you're stringing it up, you always start with the head, so you tie a string to the head, and the other end of that goes to the hook that was in the direct center of the controller. You use this for measurement. When you hold your hand out, you want your dummy to be standing, and once you have that length, you string up the rest of the parts of it. Now, you're supposed to do this with it hanging up. That way it's easier and you get your measurements correctly. I did it lying down, which was difficult, so I had to kind of go back and forth and change things. I should have just rigged something up to hang it. But once it's all strung up, you can use the controller to make it move. So what I want to show you now is just a close-up of how I strung it up and how my dummy works, and where all the strings go to. This is my finished puppet, and the great thing about this is you can make it look like whatever you want. Obviously, I made mine look like Robin. So to start stringing it up, I started with the head. That's the one that stands up. This should be at whatever height you're going to hold it up to, and that ties into the center of the controller. The next string that I have here is the one that's tied onto the back, and that's the hook, the center bottom of the torso. That goes up and it's tied into the eye hook that's directly behind where you have the head tied into. The one that's in front of where the head is, that's what I'm using for the arms. And for mine, I'm using one continuous string. It can be done different ways. You could have a couple of hooks, so one for the left arm, one for the right. I'm using one continuous string. So it's connected to one arm, goes all the way up through the hole, and then it comes down and connects to the other arm. So if I push or pull on that string, it moves the arms. So that way I can kind of have one hand holding onto the controller and the other hand holding the arm strings and working both arms just by pulling on that string. Now there's still the left and right hooks on there, and those go down to the legs. The left one goes down to the left leg, and the right one obviously goes down to the right leg. So now with all those strings in place, we're able to utilize this controller to make it move. And just to show you how that string in the back works, if I hold that string in the back and then lower the controller, it makes the marionette bow. So that's how that back string works. For the arms, I have one continuous string, so if I pull it together, they move. If I just pull and let go, it makes it look like he's running. Or if I could do that, he sticks one arm up and then you lift them off, which would be cool if he was Superman, because that could be kind of like a flying scene. But basically that one string controls the arms. The other two strings I have are the legs, so if I pull on one of those, the legs move. Ideally, if you tilt the controller left and then tilt it back the other way, so left, right, you get those legs to lift up to make it look like he's walking. With the way that I built this, and I have those cat pieces connecting the legs together, my legs kind of get caught together a bit, so those controls don't work. If I were to do this again, I would do those legs a little bit differently, separate them a little bit farther apart so that way they're not knocking together. The controller could be made a little bit more sophisticated by adding another piece of wood, same length as the others. This is what you call a biplane controller. So you'd have another piece of wood, you put hooks on either end, and instead of the one continuous string I have with the arms, you would separate that, and so one string tied up to the left and one tied up to the right. Then with a piece of Velcro or something to fasten it to the regular controller, you would do that so it could be detachable. So hooks on either side, you attach it to the center, and it's called a biplane controller. So then when you're utilizing it, you can use it as one controller, or you can lift that piece off and then have it out in front of you to control the arms. And this helps to stop some of the tangling that happens a lot when you're trying to work the puppet. And again, that's called a biplane controller, a little more sophisticated, not much more work to do it, but we went the simple route, which is the cross. And that is my marionette. Hope you like it. Leave me some comments. Please like and subscribe, and let me know if there's anything you'd like to see me make next. Thank you.